So in this video, I want to do a quick comparison between Pilot's Con-70 converter and the new Con-70N. At some point in 2020, I'm not really sure when Pilot released this converter. It's the same in most ways as the Con-70, but it's called a Con-70N. And I noticed online that it had the new model number or new model name, and there's some subtle differences. So I bought one of these from Japan. Pilot didn't seem to do any real announcement with this release. It just kind of came out with a new converter, and I couldn't find a press release or any real explanation of what the deal with the N was. So I just kind of bought one and I figured I would give it a shot. Just for the record, here's a standard Con-70, and this is Pilot's sort of higher end converter. It's meant to be used with their larger pens like the Explorer, but it won't fit a smaller fountain pen like the Pilot Metropolitan. And the mechanism is kind of simple, although I know a lot of people find it to be rather awkward. Basically, it's a spring-loaded mechanism here. You push this button down, this rod pushes this little stopper into a shelf, and you push it down, and you start creating suction, and then you let it go. And when you let it go, this thing pulls up rapidly, and it pulls or draws ink into this chamber. Anyway, here is the Con-70N, and we'll see what we could observe about it. This is the new retail packaging, straight from Japan. Clearly, this was imported. Con-70N. Here we see the little mechanism there, the plunger, and just saying that you put it in the pen and you fill it in the pen. Remove the empty spare cartridge. Immerse it, do not remove the converter. Yeah, kind of standard stuff here, no real explanation here. We do see that it is 700 yen. So retail price for this one would be about $7 to $8, maybe a little bit more right now. Okay, so here is the Con-70N on the left and the standard Con-70 on the right. First of all, we'll see that it's fundamentally the same device, same size. Clear plastic on the bottom, unchanged, chrome metal on the top. I believe it's metal. Yeah, it does appear to be metal. Buttons are slightly changed. The original Con-70 has these concentric circles here. The Con-70N has a dimple there. Doesn't seem to make any difference. So the spring feel is definitely different. The Con-70 goes down with a lot of pressure. You can kind of have to push it kind of hard. The Con-70N, much less pressure. The chrome section appears to be slightly longer on the Con-70 and a little bit shorter on the Con-70N, just by that little difference right there. See if we can zoom in. Yeah, so I guess there's some extra work here on the Con-70N. Not quite sure what that does. And then if you push the springs down, you could see the mechanism has changed. The Con-70 has this sort of white piece there. It's pretty simple. The Con-70N has this kind of ornate looking black piece with a black little that's the piece that's actually doing the seal right here, where it's white here, here it's black. You can see it moving up and down. So I'm not sure if it's simpler or more complex. It appears to be more complex. It's definitely a more contoured piece here, but it could just be that this white piece is a shroud and this black is what is on the inside of this white, who knows. Moving down, we could see some more changes. The Con-70N has a little weight here, and I think that would probably serve to either push this black piece down or to disrupt air bubbles. I'm not quite sure what it does, but you can see it clearly bouncing around. Then we see a more complex setup here. You see these little veins, and it's hard to say exactly what they would do, but again, my guess is most of it is trying to, it's like there with the purpose of drawing air ink and minimizing bubbles. And basically, I would imagine you're trying to address the core problem of these converters, which is getting as much ink into the converter as possible. Like I said, it's a large converter, but the size is a little bit useless if you're losing all of this to spring mechanism, you're losing this to the button, and this is the only available chamber here. So even though you have this big expensive converter and you can only fill it this much and get 0.4 milliliters in it, it's going to be kind of a bummer, and then people are just going to end up using cartridges all the time. Okay, so we're here with the Con-70N converter, and I have this pen. This is a Pilot Explorer. So this is a I don't know, maybe a $20 Pilot pen, and it's large enough to accept the Con-70, or the Con-70N or Con-70, which is obviously a larger converter. Could have also used, at least in the affordable line, I could have also used the Pilot Kakuno. That would work fine, but you can't use a Pilot Metropolitan or a Pereira or one of their smaller pens. So here you can see it's just a press fit in here. I want to push that nice and tight. Now this is ready to go. We know it's a Con-70N because it has these little ribs right here on the bottom, and then there's a metal weight above the plastic or the rubber plunger piece. So I'm just going to fill this up, and hopefully we will see how this works relative to the standard Con-70. I'm not honestly expecting a giant difference, but who knows. So got it going again with a pumping motion, and that did fill it up, although I still have that sort of problem with air bubbles. And what I did was just push, build up suction, and then give it a pop at the end, and we're good to go. And now we can see a nice high capacity fill. Obviously there's a lot of bubbles here, and those bubbles will decrease over time. They will just collect into a single pocket at the top, so not really a big deal. So that's good to go, and once this settles, we'll get a good idea of what sort of fill we got. Again, this is a full bottle of this ink, so it'll be a pretty good demonstration of what we can do with obviously not the best technique. So I did some writing for a minute or two, and some of those bubbles settled, and now we see a really nice fill. I would say that's about a 85 to 90% fill as far as the volume of this converter goes. So that's pretty much spot on, and we still see a few bubbles down there, but that'll settle over time. So pretty happy with that. Again, my technique with the Con-70 and the Con-70N is pretty poor, but it looks like I got a nice fill here just by using that repeated pumping technique. I think there's the tendency to do push down and pop up, but what you want to do is push, build up suction, and then do that pop. And this seems like the Con-70N is doing a pretty good job, so I'm happy with that. Maybe it's a little bit easier than the Con-70, but it's definitely no worse, so pretty happy with this. Okay, so just for comparison's sake, I have another Pilot pen. This one's about the same size, and I'm going to use the standard Con-70 with more or less the same technique, and then we'll look at the fill of the Con-70 versus the Con-70N. Again, it's not the identical pen, it's not an Explorer, but this one's about the same size. So I'll get this guy, put this in here, do a quick burst. We'll see lackluster. This one's a lot harder to push. It doesn't have that same fluid feel of the Con-70N. Maybe it just was older, it's been cleaned a few times, but the Con-70 is harder to use, I can tell you that right now. And now we'll give it a couple punches, not punches, pushes, whatever, and we'll get that suction going. And yeah, not as much full, so let's fill. So let's get that going. So definitely not close to where we were. Yeah, so not that great. Let's clean this off, let this guy settle, and we'll see where we're at with one relative to the other. So everything's settled down. Here is the quick comparison. Here's the Con-70N with its really smooth action and really maximal full fill. So that's quite nice. Here is, I used this one for a while, so it's a little bit down from where it was, but here's the Con-70. And obviously I did a poor job and I'll do better next time, but this old Con-70 is not really comparing anywhere close to the Con-70N. In fact, I'm gonna try another Con-70 just to see where we're at and get a better comparison. But okay, through a stroke of luck, I was able to track down a Pilot Kakuno and a relatively new Con-70. You can see this one has a nice quick action to it, not like those old busted ones I was struggling with before. This thing looks relatively clean, so I think we're good to go. Got a nice pressure fit there. You see it kind of lines up between the two. We will resume the lower angle technique and let's see how this goes. Yeah. So now we see a nice true Con-70 fill. Obviously there's bubbles, so we're not getting a perfect fill, but it went straight to the top without any problems. I guess my other Con-70 was on the leaky side, so it wasn't getting any really good suction there. So this guy's nice and clean. And now we will compare it to the Con-70N and we'll see. I'd say right about spot on between the two. The color, this is a really dark ink, so the color is not really coming through, but got a really nice comparison between the two. And basically, they'd say they're about the same. Maybe the Con-70N is a little bit higher. Obviously, it was easier to do, just easier to push in. Wasn't really any real technique involved with the Con-70. There's, I'd say, a little bit of technique as you get used to that pumping action. But yeah, about the same. Maybe the N is a little bit easier to push, so it's a hair easier. So in that perspective, nice upgrade, and I'm pretty happy with this thing. And if you can choose between the two, I'd say keep an eye out for the Con-70N. It'll be a nice little change. So that pretty much covers it. Thanks for watching.